This is Robert Kraft, and I'm coming to you live on SNN Live, and we're here at the Source Capital Group 2016 Disruptive Growth and Healthcare Conference in New York City. With me right now is Evan Jones from OpGen Inc. The symbol is OPGN. Evan, welcome to SNN Live.
Thank you, Robert. Good to have a chance to speak.
It's our pleasure. So, for our audience, let's get an overview of OpGen.
Okay, OpGen is a company developing precision medicine solutions for combating infectious disease. We're a molecular information business, and we're combining high-resolution DNA tests and bioinformatics to help combat drug-resistant infections and guide antibiotic therapy.
Okay, so that's a good start. Let's unwrap that a little bit. So, tell me a little more. How does this technology actually work?
Okay, well, first let me start by saying we are combating one of the great challenges of our time, the rise of drug-resistant infections. There are literally millions of people each year affected by drug-resistant hospital infections, 23,000 deaths. So we're working to solve that problem with rapid diagnostics that can help at the time of the detection of the infection to guide clinicians to say what antibiotic would be best to treat that patient.
Okay, so before we get a little more into it, I want to know, where was this developed? How did this come to be?
Well, we've been working for several years now to develop this new kind of precision DNA testing. This is a field that's been 50 years without a lot of big changes, really since World War II when the first antibiotics were developed. So my background's in the DNA business. I helped build a company called Digene that revolutionized cervical cancer screening with DNA tests. And I saw the opportunity just 2-3 years ago to turn and take all of that technology to help combat this drug-resistant infection problem.
And how big is this market? I mean, how often are patients getting infected with these diseases?
Well, as I said, 2 million illnesses a year, 23,000 deaths. The numbers are stunning. When you study the reports in this field, the projections are that by 2050, 10 million people a year could die from drug-resistant infections, more than cancer.
So, right now, how are these diseases currently being diagnosed? You know, what's happening, and how is yours actually solving that problem?
Okay, so typically the way they're being diagnosed is you're appearing in a hospital or you're a hospital patient that's got a drug-resistant infection. You are literally on your deathbed. You may be a cancer patient, you may have some other comorbidities, but the hospital's trying to sort out what do they do to save your life. They typically will give you 3-5 different antibiotics. These are prescribed empirically. They don't know what drug to use. The solution we're working for is to know what the microbe is that you're infected with and what its drug resistance profile is. Then you could prescribe the right drug at the right time.
So, this is an interesting question, I think. Are most doctors, what's their first thing that they do? Like, okay, let's say they're in that position right now because that's the standard of care. Do they immediately go to, all right, let's just give them these medication and hopefully this helps? You know, or are you trying to develop the tools so that they're not doing that, so that they actually know what's happening?
Well, they're definitely doing it today. We did a big study with one of the largest HMOs in the United States, and with these kind of patients, they described what they called vancomycin, and that was giving them vancomycin, which was one of the great antibiotics of all time, and cefepime, and that was their blanket coverage for a patient with this kind of situation. No real knowledge as to what the exact underlying infection was. And then one of those would be for gram-positive infections, the kind that cause MRSA, and the other one would be for gram-negative infections. For instance, E. coli would be one of those. And so as you separate that out over a couple of days, you can, with the conventional methods, start to drop off one or the other of those preemptive therapies. The problem is the patient may be dead by then, and you're giving them way more antibiotics than they need. So and a lot of times they don't respond. But even if they do, you're wiping out their microbiome in their gut and in their body, so then they're more susceptible to get infections like C. difficile. And all of these drug-resistant microbes can be spread in the hospital among other patients. So this is a paradigm that needs to change, and we're excited that we think we're in the position to really take the lead there.
When would the test be administered to a patient?
Okay, so the ideal scenario is, for instance, a patient presents with a complex urinary tract infection or maybe an intra-abdominal or pneumonia. You're getting ready to prescribe the antibiotic. You're going to have to treat that patient. They're acutely ill, they have a fever. In that 1 hour window, we're working to provide the solution. What is the right antibiotic to treat that patient right then?
Okay. So another thing is, where is the company at right now in its clinical development or clinical data?
Well, first of all, we're unique as a company because we already have FDA-cleared products on market for guiding patient management. These are tests that are used today. We just published a big study from a hospital in Florida called Winter Haven showing that with our current products, they saved $750,000 a year. Okay, this is what was published. They reduced those vancomycin prescriptions by 65%, and they reduced length of stay by 30%. Those are really first-generation versions of the kind of solutions that we want to bring. We have a series of advanced products coming out over the next 24, 48 months, and then our real goal is that FDA-cleared 1 hour test that changes everything.
In terms of dollars, what's the total market size here?
Okay, there's a huge market potential. I mean, just for our molecular information business today, we see about a $2.5 billion market opportunity. $2 billion for the kind of rapid diagnostics we talked about $400 million a year for protecting the hospitals and the patients in the hospital, their hospital biome, and then about $100 million a year on the pharma services side, providing that data to accelerate clinical trials, getting new drugs to market.
Okay, so you touched on your background a little bit, but I want to expand on that. Can you tell me a little more about your background and how you came into OpGen?
Sure. Well, I'm really lucky and proud to have spent my whole career riding this DNA wave. Started in the early 80s. I've got a track record of successes there. I mentioned I led this company, Digene, from 1990 to 2006. We transformed cervical cancer screening and how it's done. Sold the company for $1.6 billion in 2007. One of the great successes of this 2000s, frankly.
What got you specifically interested in OpGen?
Okay, well, first, as I mentioned to you, this is one of the great issues of our time. And so with our experience and knowledge, we think we can bring the tools to bear to help solve these problems. And I saw that no one else really was taking the leadership role to do that. So I've really dedicated my time to help improve this situation. And we're incredibly lucky to have attracted a management team of really talented professionals who've been there, done that. We have Dr. Kevin Kronetsky, who was Chief Commercial Officer at Foundation Medicine, one of the really prominent names in the field. Our Chief Financial Officer, Tim Deck, super experienced. On the technology side, Vadim Sapiro helped build the information technology for Craig Ventnor's Institute in Washington, the JCVI, and then brilliant DNA chemists and test developing people.
Okay, we're in 2016. From what you can tell me, what are some of the near-term and long-term growth drivers for the business?
Okay. So near-term growth drivers are continue to expand the commercialization of the FDA-cleared products. We have a program that's been rolled out for our hospital surveillance and protection, where every hospital in the District of Columbia is now using our technology and our Acuitas Lighthouse. And we see that we can build from there to other cities in the United States. Chicago, we have a big program in Chicago, but we want to take that through the United States and then globally. And then a big milestone for us is to cement pharma partnerships to help build the diagnostics to guide exact antibiotic therapy.
Okay, so Evan, for our audience, where can they go and find more information about the company?
So our website is opgen.com. We are NASDAQ listed. The ticker symbol is OPGN. And you can reach us through the website or reach out to the company directly. We're happy to talk with you.
My name is Robert Kraft, and I'm coming to you live on SNN Live, and we're here at the Source Capital Group 2016 Disruptive Growth and Healthcare Conference in New York City. With me again is Evan Jones from OpGen Inc. The symbol is OPGN. Evan, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Robert.